Watch this satisfying brush contact. One simple forearm rotation turns that awkward half-high ball into a weapon most amateurs never learn.
第二个就是摩
Today we're
擦。
tackling half-high balls, one of the most common trouble spots for amateur players.
手放在球的后
Get this right, and you'll stop spraying balls off the end of the table. The key difference is where you start your swing. For a backspin ball, you set your hand below the ball and brush upward from underneath.
晚上我爸爸过来讲，
But for a half-high ball, you must position your hand behind the ball and start your swing from behind it.
在球的后面去引拍，
If you try to lift a half-high ball the same way you loop backspin, you will sail it long, guaranteed.
在球的后面
So remember, hand behind the ball, swing starting from behind.
不能摩擦
That's the first critical point.
压拍。
You need to close the racket and brush the upper middle part of the ball.
明白了吧？
Let me make that clear. First, your hand starts behind the ball.
中上部怎么能叫摩擦？
Second, you brush the upper middle portion.
那你看上旋
Whether you play penhold or shakehand, even on a topspin loop you're brushing the upper middle section.
我一定是摩擦球的中上部。
It doesn't matter how low I drop my racket during the backswing. At contact, I'm still catching the upper middle of the ball.
就可以发力了。第一个
Watch closely. When you brush that upper middle zone correctly, you'll notice the rubber grips and the ball deforms slightly against the sponge. You can almost see it twist.
看我
That's the sign you're engaging the ball properly and generating real force.
摩擦球的
Watch
中
as I
上部
demonstrate. I close the racket face and brush through the upper middle portion of the ball every single time.
全台不定点。
Notice the racket angle stays tilted forward throughout the stroke.
压拍中上部，
Even when the ball placement varies, my contact point stays consistent. Upper middle, every rep.
搭俩边斜线出界了。
Now watch me drive a couple down the
在
sidelines.
球的中上部去摩擦的，因为你想发力啊。
That's only possible because I'm brushing the upper middle zone with a closed racket.
你不压拍肯定不行。
If you try to loop a half-high ball the same way you loop backspin, it simply won't work.
你按照正常下旋拉，只要
Let me show you.
你看比球低，
Watch when I drop my hand below the ball and swing upward the way you would against backspin. The ball either dumps into the net or flies long. A half-high ball behaves very differently from a deep backspin push.
这个拉法跟我们平时学的这种
The approach is fundamentally different.
还是有很大区别的。
Remember two essential points about contact.
第一个呢，一定要让这个手啊，
First, your hand must be positioned behind the ball, not underneath it.
拍子虎口向前去摩擦，
Second, close the racket and lead with the tiger's mouth pointing forward as you brush through.
球的中上部，在球后
Do not drop below the ball.
这么去摩擦它，不要在球下，
Do not open the racket face.
不能在球下。
As soon as your contact point slips underneath, your arc becomes uncontrollable, and the moment you try to add power, the ball flies long.
点一下大拇指，能比球
When your hand is behind the ball and higher than it, that's a topspin position.
上旋球，下旋球
For backspin, your hand is behind the ball but lower, below the ball's center.
要下面，你在球的后面，
And here's the third key point. Keep the stroke compact.
动作小。
When you attack a half-high ball, the stroke must stay small. Everything I've shown you so far has been about the brushing technique in isolation. Now let me put it together and loop a few at match speed so you can see how it looks in real play. Watch closely, my backswing is very short. I don't wind up. The power comes from the wrist snap and the closed racket face driving through that upper middle contact point, not from a big arm swing. Notice my elbow stays in front of my body. My forearm does most of the work. The moment of acceleration is right at contact, a quick, tight burst. See how small the stroke is? There's no big wind-up, yet the ball comes off with real pace and spin. It looks smooth, almost effortless,
没发力，没发力，
and you can absolutely learn to do this.
好看是吗？
Watch again. My partner sends me heavy backspin, genuinely loaded with spin, and my stroke stays compact.
我现在发的这个就
The motion is not big at all.
动作大不大？
So why do so many players make errors on half-high balls?
所以我们打半
Let me show you the most common mistake.
你看
Here's what happens when you pull your arm back too far.
是这样，
Watch my swing. Notice how the extra backswing delays my contact. Now pay attention to the ball coming off the machine. It's arriving fast, and these are half-high balls with pace.
我说的对不？
Look at the speed. The ball is on you quickly.
你观察这种下旋球，大家看。
By the time you finish a long backswing, the ball has already dropped past the ideal contact point.
你看它起个小半高，
You have to respect how fast these balls come through the bounce.
你看这个
You
球
think you're
高
going to
你以
hit the
为
ball
你
at
打的
this
是这个
point, up here, near the top of the bounce.
你认为你打的是
But
这
with
个
that long backswing, by the time your racket comes forward, the ball has already fallen to here.
都快掉
It's
下去
dropping
了
away
球
from you. You aimed for the peak, but you actually contacted the ball well past it, when it's already on its way down.
你这个点打的不对。
That changes everything. Your angle is wrong, your timing is off.
所以我们一
This
定
is
不能把
exactly
手
why you
啊
must not
千万
pull your
不能
arm
把手
back.
因为一拉手球就容易掉下
A
去
big
我
backswing
们就
eats up the time you
放
need.
在身前
Keep your racket in front of your body, ready and compact. A lot of these are going into the net, right?
是不是这个意思？
That's the classic mistake. Watch when I hit this half-high ball flat. It dumps straight into the net every time.
是不是啊？我
You
赛
need
前
to
这个
change your
我不凉
approach.
快是不是这么失误的？经常这么打失误，对不对？
What we're working on today is specifically the half-high backspin ball.
教的就是下旋半高，这是下
This is a backspin feed. You might not see the rotation clearly from the camera angle, so let me show you one up close.
多转的下旋球，
Watch how heavy this backspin
下
is.
旋球，
The ball machine puts serious underspin on it.
咱就
If you try to just punch through the ball with a flat contact, you cannot generate enough lift to clear the net. The spin drags the ball downward. That's why pure hitting doesn't work against heavy backspin, even when the ball sits up at a comfortable height. You need friction, not
是
force.
不是这种
Your racket has to brush the ball, not slam into it.
半高球？
So why does this half-high ball keep going into the net?
为啥下网？
Here's the fix. It's simpler than you think.
摩擦往前走，
Close the racket angle slightly, brush upward through the ball, and drive forward.
摩擦往前走。
That's it.
等一下啊，
Close the racket, brush, go forward. Watch me do it again.
往前走。
You must not hit the ball flat. Flat contact on a backspin ball sends it straight into the net every time. Unless you have a very refined punch-hit technique, where you can time a sharp downward snap at exactly the right moment, flat striking won't work.
这可以。
Most players don't have that skill yet, so don't try to force it.
下来，
There are two distinct techniques here.
立着拍子，
For a punch hit, drop your hand low, stand the racket up nearly vertical, and push forward with a compact stroke.
行啊。
Keep the motion small and drive straight ahead.
弹击的话，就把肘放
Engage your waist, stay compact, and let explosive timing do the work.
往前走，
Now for a loop against the same ball, it's different.
伸
Raise your hand, close the racket face, and brush the middle upper part of the ball.
如果是拉，
The key motion is forearm supination. Your forearm rotates outward as you make contact.
前臂外旋，
This applies to both shakehand and penhold grips.
这边也是啊。没球了，压
Close the racket face and let your forearm rotate outward. Don't just shove forward.
其实我们这球吧都侧身，
Rotate to the side and graze the ball.
是不是？压着拍子，
It jumps off the racket immediately.
别向前顶，外旋侧面，
Unlike looping against backspin where you drive forward, here you direct force slightly sideways, brushing across the ball.